All right, everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesdays. I'm your host, Carl Smith, and joining me to handle logistics and questions is Jason Hauser, a fellow editor here at the Research and Curriculum Units. This is our second webinar of the academic year, and we have 4 more set to run this and next year. We'll post this episode on our website later. You can find it by visiting www.rcu.msstate.edu and selecting webinars under the Communications tab. We, of course, appreciate feedback and welcome your questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can at the end of this, so just hold on tight. So let's go ahead and talk about what's up for discussion today. I'm going to share with you information about the 2 magazines we produce for the Mississippi Department of Education. Those are Connections and School Focus. We'll also talk about how you, your career and technical education program, and your school can partner with us at the RCU to help spread your story across Mississippi and get it in the hands of important education stakeholders, policymakers, lawmakers, and other school districts around the state. All right. First up, we have Connections. Let me get that going for y'all. All right. There we go. Connections is MDE's CTE-focused magazine. We publish it twice a year, usually in the spring and fall, obviously. Our staff just finished putting together the fall edition. It's coming out this month, and the spring edition usually comes out about April or May. A typical issue contains about 7 to 10 primary features that are, again, CTE-focused. We focused and covered everything from a professional rodeo clown with an FFA background to health science students using augmented reality as they study the human body. Features are written primarily by the RCU staff and are deep dives, which to me means that we're going to interview a district's CTE director, the teachers, and even the students themselves to discuss the impacts of these programs. And then we're going to discuss these programs with people here at the RCU who write curriculum and try to advance this education in the classrooms, and also MDE officials who are setting the policy and moving forward with education for our states. So we'll talk about how to submit pre-written stories later, but these features are typically developed from press releases, pitches made by teachers and administrators, and from our boots-on-the-ground staff members who are in the school districts providing professional learning and development. There are other stories that go into Connections as well. There's also news and notes features that are basically quick press releases. We've included announcements for CTE teachers winning awards, community projects by students and student groups, internship programs, and even festivals that raise funds for these students' groups. These are typically submitted by school districts and arranged by our editors for publication. We also set aside space for student and teacher profiles. We'll talk about how to get those names to us for interviews later on in this webinar as well. So next up is School Focus. Now this magazine focuses basically on instruction techniques and examples of best practices that are occurring in Mississippi classrooms. In 2019, we'll publish this magazine in February. The next edition is slated to come out in the fall. Our summer 2018 edition actually had 5 features in it, and they're similar to the deep dives we find in Connections. Those stories included features on how early childhood education centers prepare children, how a district exposes middle school students to future job opportunities, how districts provide in-house professional development for their teachers, and how analyzing data just beyond test grades is used to identify students at risk and help supplement their learning. Again, these features are written by RCU staff members and are typically developed from school district pitches and from MDE guidance as well. Other stories in this magazine include teacher and student spotlights, inside the classroom pieces, which is short kind of stories where we talk about what items educators are using to bolster their instructional methods, and academic news from MDE, including implementing new standards and degree options. All right, so let's talk about how we actually cover a story here. The first thing that we do is we generate content ideas. Basically, in idea generation, we take the stories we've seen, and this includes information from our own staff members who are the boots on the ground, like I said, pitch story ideas from school district administrators and teachers, submitted press release, and the MDE itself. Then we identify what we're actually going to write about, what we're going to expand on in print, and we assign these stories to our writers. The next step is we actually go out and collect the information specific to the story. At this point, our writers are brushing up on the topics they're about to cover, and are calling and emailing sources within your school district for interviews. Now, we know teachers and administrators are busy people. It can be hard to find a little extra time to talk to someone about your program, but please work with us when you can. Those 10 to 15 minutes on the phone or responding to emails will help us promote the good that you and your students are doing. Our writers typically send these emails letting you know what we're covering, the questions we have, the time frame for putting together the article as well. If an over-the-phone interview is conducted, you'll usually see a transcript of the interview emailed back to you for fact-checking on your end and possibly with follow-up questions from our writer. We'll also include lines about photo requests. Now, these are just as important as the story itself, the interviews, and everything else. We'll talk more about photos later on, but we're primarily looking for pictures of teachers and students engaged in the subject and actions that we're covering. All right, the writing and editing parts. Now, these kind of speak for themselves. Once our writers have concluded their interviews, they begin piecing together their stories. Advanced copies are sent to the interviewees for fact-checking again and possible follow-ups at this point. But typically, they're pretty much finalized here. Stories then go through the RCU editing processes. We quality control them, and then our magazine is designed by our in-house graphic designer. That PDF itself goes through the editing process again, goes to MDE, and after the final read, we obviously print it, and we start getting it out into the hands of the people that want and need this magazine. Basically, like I said, we mail out the physical copies, but you can ask for more copies by going to the links that you'll see here in this PowerPoint presentation. One way is the RCU website. It's rcu.msstate.edu/magazine request, or you can email the help desk here, which is helpdesk@rcu.msstate.edu with your information. Both magazines are uploaded to their own websites at this point, which you see the links there. It's rcu.msstate.edu/connections or /school focus. And you can actually download the PDF, the e-edition of these documents as well. And we also have our own large repository here at the RCU Communications team, and that is rcu.msstate.edu/communications/libraries. And there you can find the magazines, reports, research briefs, and a lot of things that we do. Okay, now how do you get your story to us? There's basically two primary ways that you can do this. Through pre-written press releases that include everything we need to know about the story, obviously, and the interviews and everything's been done, and photos that are ready for publication. There are also pitches, which are just basically short emails to us that let us know what's going on and why we need to cover it. Remember to always hit the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. That way we know basically everything we need to and can judge whether or not we're going to come and try to fill out the story. Again, there's two ways to do that. You can email the help desk at the link that's below and I've told you all about, or we have an online form here at rcu.msstate.edu/connections/share your story ideas. This is a very simple form that will get the 5 W's and much more information out of you. If you have any, reservations about sending a pitch, this is the easiest way to do it. And there's also a way to upload photos and provide information about what's happening in those photos on there as well. Speaking of photos, like I said, these are just as important as the interviews and the words that we use to tell the story. We're asking that y'all just investigate your own camera. We can't troubleshoot and provide insight for every camera because we don't know what you have and we're not specialists there. But if you can find a way to set the camera to take the largest file size photo, which means large in the sense of megabytes per picture, that'll give us a better quality photo, which results in better printing. Also, natural lights versus inside filaments and everything provide better lighting for photos. You don't get as many blurry pictures as you do outside or with natural light coming through a window as you do from light bulbs and fluorescent lighting inside. Fluorescent lighting, actually, you have to keep the camera shutter open longer to allow more light in, which can give you more of a chance of blurs. Now, the photos we're actually looking for capture the action of what's going on in your story. You want to see pictures of students and teachers interacting and maybe using new technology to explore the subject, or working on an actual project outside. The posed grin and grip shots, basically where people are just looking straight on at the camera, we can use those, but those aren't good feature photos, and we don't really run them big and bold and brassy like you see with good action shots. Again, and there's another tip here, don't amputate your subjects. Basically, what that means is capture your arms and your limbs naturally in the scene instead of cutting people off at awkward angles. What you can always do, most people don't realize it while they're just taking pictures, but step forward or backward or move side to side to properly capture the subject and capture the moment. You'll get a good picture out of that. So submitting photos, when you do that, we also, not only do we need the photo itself, but we need the information of what's going on in there. And cut lines, which are the paragraphs that identify who and what is happening, or who's in a photo and what is happening in a photo, are written in active voice like the picture itself is happening at that moment. And as you can see in this PowerPoint, there's an example here. Baldwin School District seniors John Smith and Jane Doe work on AC/DC electrical control modules at the district's Career and Technical Center. So we've identified who's in the picture, what action is taking place, and where that action is occurring. You can even go so far as saying when it happened. It's all this information is pertinent and can be used. As always, do not publish pictures of students that don't have proper release forms signed for dissemination of their photos. Always work with your school district administrators or your public information officers to figure out who is covered, who needs to get a release form signed, and work that way. A little planning in the front end will take care of a lot of issues on the back ends. But in a nutshell, that is how you can work with us to get us to help you tell your story. We appreciate the opportunity and love actually going into the school districts, finding out these new best practices and these new creative and great ways of education and telling everybody about it, because the success that y'all are having can be replicated in other classrooms across Mississippi. Now, if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask them and we'll try to answer what we can. But we appreciate y'all attending and being here with us today. All right. Well, thank you. Y'all have a good day.